Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another ACGHK figure preview video. Before we begin, I want to say a massive thank you to Ryan Kirkwood for coming out with me in person to the convention and snapping these glorious high-res pictures as well as this intro video. Show Ryan some love in the comments below because without him, this series literally would not be possible. If you're looking to pre-order your very own copy of General Grievous, I've included a link to Pop Collectibles in the description below, along with the discount code Justin's Collection, for 5% off your order if you do decide to buy from them. As always, do your own research, make sure you're comfortable before buying. While you're down there, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button, so you're notified as soon as a brand new convention figure preview video goes live on the channel. Now that that's all out of the way, it's about damn time, Hot Toys. What the hell took y'all so long to finally give us a General Grievous? And it's not just a basic Grievous figure either. This guy has some diecast in him, enough for them to warrant calling him a diecast release. Now, I spoke to Howard Chan because he was wandering around the booth when the press tour was happening, and he specifically mentioned that the feet were made of diecast. But the promo pics say that the feet aren't made of diecast, so I'm going to take Howard's word on this and assume that he's going to be a nice, heavy planted boy with those die-cast feet. Oh, and for those who don't know who Howard is, he's the CEO of Hot Toys, and he's a massive Star Wars fan, so chances are, if he wasn't directly involved with this project, he would make it his business to find out what pieces of Grievous are going to be made out of metal. Thank goodness this does have some die-cast in it, because up until the announcement of this guy, our only 1/6 scale General Grievous has been the sideshow versions. The first one was okay. He actually was a grail for a while. He sold out and then went up in price on the aftermarket. I paid like $900 for mine. But he definitely wasn't worth that because over time he became floppy and he wouldn't stand without his display base, and he was a nightmare to pose. Then we got the ill-fated second/reissue version, which was significantly worse in every conceivable way compared to the first one. Instead of having stiff joints out of the box, then having them loosen up over time, they were immediately loose. It was a disaster to work with, so yeah, they're still in stock, I believe, and they're going to remain that way because this Grievous is the one to have. He does come with some interchangeable battle damage pieces. I like that they're here. I'm never going to use them personally. I prefer to have Grievous displayed with his 4 arms out, swiveling those lightsaber blades around. So, yeah, battle damaged, having his hands cut off, just not my cup of tea. Do weigh in down in the comments below. Will you perhaps be using these battle damage pieces? I like the effect where it looks like it's singed, as though Obi-Wan has just freshly lopped off Grievous's hands. The way that's been painted is pretty convincing. Grievous is stacked when it comes to accessories. We get the chopped off hands. We also have 4 LED powered lightsaber hilts and 4 normal ones. Some swooshing blade effects, but they've gone back to the fan versions for some reason instead of the accurate looking lightsaber trail. And an electro staff as well. I mistakenly said in my first ever Grievous review that that was a vibroblade. Of course, that is completely inaccurate. It's an electro staff, and seeing as though we now have one in Hot Toys parts bucket, they could very easily give us a Magna Guard and reuse the mold that they've already paid for by giving us the staff with General Grievous. He does have that little junction box thing that you're supposed to connect the LED powered lightsaber hilts to, but where is that supposed to go? Yes, as usual, we'll probably be able to connect it to the crotch grabber, but Grievous is like this droid, spindly looking dude. There's holes through him, he's very gangly, so there's not many places where you can hide a big junction box style piece of black plastic with cables coming out of it. Anyway, that's a question that only future Justin can answer. Grievous does come with his blaster, which is, of course, so uncivilized. You could give that to Obi-Wan Kenobi if you wanted, then you could recreate the scene where he blasts Grievous in his organ sac. Because you can open up the chest compartment to expose it, and there's a little sneak preview of what it looks like a little bit later on in the video. On display, the Electro Staff was warping slash bending a little. I'm hoping that that's not going to be an issue with the final one. Like, you can see that, yeah, the tip of it is bent up ever so slightly. That could just be what the prototype is made out of, very likely 3D printed resin. Another thing that we'll have to wait and see and experiment with when this guy releases. I tried to get really up close on the feet to see what they're made out of. I'm still sticking with diecast because that's what Howard said. Okay, you know what? This display base was the perfect choice for General Grievous. This is the Thanos slash quarter scale figure display base. Grievous is huge. He also needs a nice wide platform to plant him on. But we don't want the diamond base. We never want the diamond base. It is so impractical. This is the perfect blend between a nice large footprint base and something that's practical. We've got flat edges on both sides and front and back. So it's not going to chew up all of the real estate in your display. As for Grievous himself, yeah, he's got some pretty skinny legs and some very delicate looking joints. But they went with diecast, don't forget, and Hot Toys are the masters of ratchet joints. They get the tolerances just right because they've learnt all of this stuff by experimenting with their diecast Iron Man figures. So I have every confidence in the world that this figure is going to be able to stand. He's not going to be a floppy disaster like the Sideshow one. They used ball joints for the hips, and that meant that because the torso was so heavy, having 4 arms, the legs would be stationary, but the torso would slowly but surely start to lean forward, and eventually it would just go all the way and he'd topple over like an unwieldy mess. I don't want to bash Sideshow too much because technically they were pioneers. They were the first to make a 1/6 scale Grievous. They also showed Hot Toys exactly what not to do when you're making a Grievous. I'll get all the way off their back now. Let's focus on the Hot Toys version of Grievous. His cape is beautifully well printed. That little detail on the inside with like a leaf pattern, I'm not exactly sure what that is, in between the checkerboard diamond effect. I'm all for it. I am hoping that the die has been set properly, because the Sideshow cape, I know I promised to get off its back, just one more thing. The Sideshow cape stained the shoulder pads on my Grievous. White plastic versus red dyed fabric, that's a recipe for disaster. This looks like grey fabric that has some screen printing on it. I'm thinking it's not going to be an issue for Hot Toys. Oh, and this is the organ sac I was talking about earlier. They did have the chest plates closed on display, but you can open that up if you want to fully expose that translucent green sac with the organs inside of it. There's heaps of battle damage and wear and tear on the surface of Grievous's armor because this is Grievous from Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, not the Clone Wars. So this is after he'd kicked some serious ass all throughout the Clone Wars, and his armor is completely disheveled. There's cracks in it. We've got wear and tear. There's speckling of dirt and grime, washes in the crevices, and also some lighter orange airbrushing on the white panels just to give it some more grit and texture. I'm curious to see which joints are going to be ratchets versus friction joints. That's something that they need to really nail the tolerances on, because if they don't, yeah, we know what happens. I won't mention the Sideshow one again. You can see there is a magnet on the forearm because instead of going with swap out arms for their Grievous, Hot Toys just has one set of arms if we don't count the battle damaged hand chopped off forearms. Going with the splitting gimmick over and above swap outs, I'm not sure was the right call, because inherently, if something can separate, that means there is a point of structural weakness, because it needs to be able to pull apart to give you a completely different look. If it's just one piece, then it's going to be a lot more structurally sound for dynamic posing. I'm sure Hot Toys have thought about all of this, they've experimented, they've tried doing it the other way, and they decided that, yeah, no problem, they can get this done. But look at that elbow. You can see how skinny that frickin' thing is. So I am nervous. Cautiously optimistic is the way I would describe how I'm thinking about this Grievous right now. I can see a pin in the hand, so that means there's a swivel. How the fingers move, or if they're just sculpted rubbery plastic, all questions that we'll have to answer a little bit later on. Oh, and these are the normal lightsaber blades, which are the ones I'm going to use because can you imagine threading those cables through and around Grievous's body and trying to hide them just to have a pretty lackluster looking LED setup going on? Yeah, I ain't about to do that. There is no way we're going to be able to hide every single cable on Grievous. It's just not going to be possible. Even if you spend hours working on this, getting some double-sided tape out, and sticking that tape to the back of his arms, then adhering the cables to that tape, eventually they're going to become unstuck and you're going to see them. Just decide whether or not you think that LED light up effect is worth it or not. For me, it isn't. I'm going for a cleaner look for my General Grievous. Well, as clean as you can get with a battle damaged, nasty looking droid like this. Now, the best part about the head sculpt for me not only is the accuracy, but it's got moving eyes, so we can get very expressive with Grievous. He doesn't have much of an expression on his face, so you have to work with the posture, and now that we have moving eyes, that's going to help as well. The only complaint I have is that the eyes are a bit dull. They're supposed to be very fiery, and they're meant to stand out amongst his darker, fleshy eye sockets, but they don't. Up close from a distance, they're greyish, they're desaturated, and they just don't look right to me. Yes, moving eyes is an awesome feature, but you have to get the colour right, Hot Toys, and I have every confidence that they're going to work on the eyes and make them more vibrant and therefore more accurate to the movie. Overall, am I happy with this? 100%. I'm freaking over the moon that we finally have a bloody General Grievous. From Hot Toys, I should say. I've been waiting for years. We've all collectively been waiting for years. Finally, this thing is freaking happening, and it looks like a masterpiece. I cannot wait to get this guy in hand. Now, I'm pre-ordering mine from Pop Collectibles. As always, do your own research. Make sure you're comfortable before buying. I have popped a link to their site in the description below, along with the discount code Justin's Collection, for 5% off your order if you do decide to buy from them. While you're down in the description, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button if you like the sound of seeing your name in the end credits of my reviews. Like, comment, and subscribe. We'll catch you in the next video.